Good evening. Welcome to our series, Elevating Stories of Climate Equity. The theme of this episode is elevating voices, shining light on fellow nonprofits. I'm Yami Newell, your host for this episode. Today, we will hear from leaders in nonprofit organizations, Carlos Nelson and Ray Thompson from Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation, Dara Reef from Elevate, Eric Lightfoot and Marissa Joyce, also from Elevate, representing our community resources team, and giving us some tips on warmer weather that's coming. And now I'd like to be joined by Sylvia Ewan.
Hey, good to see you, Yami. Always good to hang out with you, and congratulations on taking over this show.
Thank you.
There's a lot of government funding in Illinois that was not accessible or being allocated in the past to communities that needed it most. Now, organizations like the Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation have been awarded funding, and they have the potential to change the landscape of what it means to have community resources. Let's delve deeper into the meaningful change this organization has been able to make. First, we'll have Ray Thompson, Director of Education and Youth Development for GAGDC. I'm cool, I know that. And his CEO, Carlos Nelson. Thank you both for being here. And to tell us a little bit about your work, Yami and I both are going to ask you questions, but let's start with you, Ray. What do you do?
At Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation, GAGDC, I am the Director of Education and Youth Development, where we partner with about 7 to 10 schools in the community, what we call our Auburn Gresham Gold Schools. And these schools, we help them provide after-school programs. We help with professional development for teachers, basically around literacy, STEM education, and something new that we're working on is fine arts and performance, something that is missing from a lot of our Southside public schools, fine art education and performance education.
Well, it takes the village, right, to help the schools.
And Carlos, would you mind telling us a little bit about what it is you do?
Absolutely, and thank you for having us on the show. You two ladies are two of my favorite individuals, and so, yeah, I have the benefit of having the title of Chief Executive Officer. I do sign the checks, but really, I get way too much credit for the work that leaders like Ray Thompson and others on the team, Linda Johnson and Norma Sanders and Hubert Newkirk, et cetera, they really lead the organization. But as Chief Executive Officer, my name is the name that, oftentimes is stated, and I get way too much credit, but I'm just one of the co-leaders of this organization.
Well, you're very humble, but that's what makes you a great leader, understanding the importance of team. Carlos, what was the transition like going from being an engineer to being a CEO of a nonprofit?
Have you ever dove into a pool of ice water? That's what it was like. And I really didn't expect to really hit the types of turbulence that really leaving engineering and doing the work that folks like me should be doing. I figured, hey, I had a spirit for rebuilding my community, my people. That's the right thing to do. My passion, there would be resources and support, and folks would want to just, have the money flow to help rebuild a Southside community like Auburn Gresham. I was shocked by the fact that, there's not a lot of resources that have been poured into our communities, and many of the funders and philanthropy as well, expect us to make a mountain out of a molehill of $5,000 grant or whatever, but it really takes passion, heart, and consistency, which is one of the things that Ray and I have talked about for years, being consistent in what you do, showing up each and every day, knowing that your work will make a difference.
Well, you speak the truth about the lack of resources, and one of the frustrating things is a little bit of money and a whole lot of paperwork in order to get that money. But tell us what it was like to win the Pritzker Prize, and that's a question to both of you. I'll start with you, Ray.
What it's like Carlos said, it goes back to this consistency. I've been working with Carlos, in partnership with Carlos, actually was and continue to be a staff member with Carlos since 2008, 2009. And we had these visions. Carlos had always had these great visions, the litter-free zone. He had the schoolyard project. Now, all of these things have become staples, part of the 5 pillars, I'm sure, which Carlos will talk about, of the Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation. So for me, it's just a culmination of all of the hard work and all of the seed planting that's been happening over all of these years.
And Carlos, the same question for you and for our listeners. That was a huge amount of money to dream your dream. It was a competitive process that you won.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly enough, the work that we do, and Ray mentioned, 5 pillars, GAGDC, we do comprehensive community development, work in education and youth development led by Ray, housing and senior services, health and wellness, economic development, all wrapped or based on the foundation of community engagement. Winning the Chicago Prize, the Pritzker Traubert Foundation $10 million prize, has had the result of elevating, no pun intended, elevating GAGDC's name, not just locally, but regionally and nationally. And so now all of a sudden, we get phone calls from partners like the Chicago Bears and the Kohler Corporation and Whirlpool and so many other OEMs or philanthropy, Weinberg Foundation out of Baltimore. So the awareness that winning the Chicago Prize has done a wonderful job for the organization and allowed us to begin building up those coffers so that we can attract and retain talented leaders with a substantial pay, like Ray and the team, or a Yami, for instance. These young, strong leaders here in the city, we can attract them to our organization, keep them paid, and help continue to grow our communities.
You can't have Yami, but she can take the next question.
Thank you, Carlos. Can you talk a little bit about how the grant has opened up opportunities for you to work with other nonprofit organizations?
Yes, that is a great question. It's one of the areas that I am most proud of. The work. So we call our Chicago Prize movement "Always Growing Auburn Gresham," right? And so this is a movement that if you come to 79th and Halsted or 87th, et cetera, if you come to Auburn Gresham, you'll start seeing this movement and feeling this vibe. And so we've begun to work and partner with organizations. Well, first of all, our winning Chicago Prize proposal included partnering with Green Era Development. And so imagine this Green Era renewable energy and urban farming campus transforming a 9-acre brownfield site right at 650 West 83rd Street. Make sure you come and take a look into it. First of its kind, vibrant hub for organics, recycling, green energy and jobs, fresh produce, business incubation, educational programming, community green space. So you take that and then you marry it with this Auburn Gresham Healthy Lifestyle Hub, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that. And you have what the true definition of catalytic development is. And our partner there is Urban Growers Collective, led by the wonderful Erica Allen, and Green Era Development, Jason Feldman.
Beautiful.
That's fantastic, and thank you for sharing. Based on your work, can you talk a little bit about how you think we can bridge the gap in the nonprofit sector so that there's a greater impact for the communities and the residents that live there?
So I'm going to start that response, and then I'll pass the baton on to Ray, who was one of the most eloquent young men. Well, he used to be young when we first met. Time waits for no one.
Oh man.
But also, winning the Chicago Prize allowed GAGDC to be the #1 Class B investor in this $40 million project. And so the two projects together are nearly $60 million of investment coming to the Auburn Gresham community. And so we are a 30% investor, right? And so when the return on the investment begins to flow out of that anaerobic digester, those that revenue will be used by the organization to continue to fund our comprehensive community development work, but more importantly, fund our community partners and other not-for-profits that have struggled over the years to get, funds that allowed us to grow. And so that's the part that I'm most excited. We will be able to fund the work ourselves by organizations like ours in the community. But it takes communication, conversation, and trust. And that's one of the things that Ray Thompson has been kind of preaching since he and I got together back in 2008.
Right. I like to say I'm trained master's degree social worker. But I like to say I'm a recovering social worker because I realized that there was a line of my professional self I had to get rid of in order to really support people. So what I mean by that, so when we out here doing this type of community work, working with people, community engagement, what we often realize is that we're focusing on folks' deficits. We're not focusing on their gifts. We're not focusing on their capacities. And so when we come in tune to the people in which we want to support in communities that we love, they're not talking about their gifts. They're not talking about their capacities. They're talking about their deficits. And us in this nonprofit world, we know that lots of statistics and narratives or deficits are necessary. But what happens when we start to enliven people and help them remember their own natural talents and gifts and capacities, but then start to connect those in the community from intergenerationally, young to old? There's a lot of things that young people can teach older residents in our community. There's a lot of things, of course. I mean, we have this great baby boom generation who are now facing their late 60s, 70s, and 80s. There's a lot of information and knowledge they're taking with them. How are we capturing those gifts and capacities, and how are we using that to benefit young people? So when we do our education work, when we do our community engagement work at GAGDC, this is sort of the background thought that we're having when we want to engage the community. And we want to continue to do that, not only for Auburn Gresham, but for surrounding communities as well throughout the Southland.
That's so inspiring. And at Elevate, we talk about conscious communication, centering people's humanity before their condition, seeing their brilliance instead of having them talk about their woes in order to get funding or grants. So we're right there with you with that, and love the intergenerational work that you've been doing. Finally, as we come almost to the end of our segment, we do have a question that we're going to have one of our teammates ask you. But how has the pandemic affected your work? It's the elephant in the room, the other person at the table. What has it meant for you?
Yeah, so in March of 2020, all systems were go for GAGDC. And then, of course, there was this halt. What we recognize as an organization is that we had to become a command center, a COVID crisis command center, not just for Auburn Gresham, for the South Side. The first COVID-related death here in the state of Illinois was just 2 blocks away from our office here in Auburn Gresham. And then that same family experienced another COVID-related death. And so at that point, we pivoted. Our 5 pillars remained in place, but we modified each pillar to meet our residents where they were. So we started distributing PPE. We started going to hotspot corners. Let me just say this, Sylvia, and Yami, our office never closed, wow, has not closed for COVID. Our team, and Ray is laughing because he's been there, he and his education team, that everyone has been here. All 45 of our employees have continued to work because we knew that our work was critical to saving lives, the social isolation that our seniors were experiencing. So we needed to meet the seniors where they were. We created what Ray is the executive producer of, this rapid resource information line. bursts of information to keep seniors connected. We started a COVID testing site at the former BJ's Market across the street. Then we started vaccination events that kind of go around the entire South Side. Ray mentioned, so we're now a regional organization. But this work, emergency housing assistance, rental assistance, utility assistance, you name it, all of our 5 pillars and all of our staff have worked, have pivoted, and continued to provide to meet our meet residents where they are.
Well, outstanding work. We're so happy to give you a platform because people can learn from you, from your spirit, and from the actual work that you do. It's just how you do it. Now, I'm thanking you, Carlos Nelson and Ray Thompson, but we've got a question for you. Let's go to Vatia Hill, who has a consumer question for both of you. She's on Yami's team. Vatia?
Well, I just want to acknowledge first, before I go with the consumer or the resident question, I just want to acknowledge that I've been working with and at your center, and what you're doing is just really great work. So I'm excited to continue working with you. The question that we have from the audience is, we want more information about what's going on with the center that you're creating on 79th Street.
Well, I'll try to give my best Carlos Nelson Healthy Lifestyle Hub spiel here as best as I can. Carlos is the one who's perfect at it. I'm going to give you my best. So here we go. At our Healthy Lifestyle Hub, not only are we talking about a full service health clinic in partnership with UIC, we're also talking about full service dentistry. Now, where have you heard that on the South Side? In addition to that, we're going to have a full teaching kitchen. We're going to have Big Brothers and Big Sisters Incorporated is going to be in the building. We're going to also have Heartland Alliance is going to have offices in the building as well. And we're going to have a couple of different restaurants in the building. Those I'm not too sure of at this point, but I do know we'll have a couple of different restaurants. But here's the vision. Not only in that 839 building that we'll be renovating and be opening in July, beginning August, but we're also looking at developing a healthy lifestyle campus. If you notice on that Hostage Street, there's a CVS, an empty CVS. There's also a Bank of America building, which is right next to the 839 building that's being renovated. So we want to look at those pieces as added additions to a great healthy hub. Also as an anchor institution. A lot of Southside communities don't have these major anchor institutions. And what the vision of Carlos Nelson and GAGDC over these years, what we have is a homegrown anchor institution. Now, how amazing is that?
Well, that is so amazing. Carlos, we don't even need your chiming in because your team has done it for you. We want to thank both of you for being here. Thank Tia and the consumer for the question. If you want to know who is doing it up in the greater Auburn Gresham area, it is this organization. I'm so proud to know you. I know that Yami is as well. So we're thanking Carlos Nelson, CEO, and Ray Thompson, folks who could have done a lot of things with their lives and careers, but chose to give back to the community. Thank you, fellas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later. Yami will be right back after this.
Hey William, I have a quick question for you. How do I make my rental property more energy efficient without violating my lease agreement?
Hey Amrit, there's several things you can do that don't involve changing fixtures. Try installing socket sealers. About 30% of heat loss happens through walls and outlets, but make sure you turn off your breaker first. Also, use LED light bulbs and weatherization strips to seal window seals and doors. You can also enroll in Ameren or ComEd programs that can help you save.
Oh wow, those are some really great tips. Then again, I know I can always count on Elevate's community resource team. Where can I learn more?
Check out Elevate community events on Facebook and Instagram. We also have a frequently asked questions blog on our website. Be sure to check out the link in the bio.
Cool.
Hey Marissa, what's the best temperature to set your thermostat to?
Hey Adrian, it depends on the season. In the winter, the ideal temperature to set your thermostat is 68 degrees. In the summer, the Department of Energy recommends 78 degrees.
78 degrees? That's hot.
I agree. In my own home, I set my thermostat to 74 degrees in the summer and use ceiling fans and other fans to make the room seem 4 degrees cooler. I turn off the fans when I'm not in the room because I don't want to waste electricity there.
Okay, I'll try that. What else can I do?
You can find more information in the Frequently Asked Energy Questions blog.
Yes, do you have a question?
Where does the most heat loss occur in a house?
About 25 to 35% of the heat loss in your home actually comes from uninsulated walls and roofs.
Wow, and all this time I thought it was the doors and windows letting out all the air. I'm a new homeowner, so this is all new to me.
That's a common misconception, but windows and doors actually only make up 10% of the heat loss in your home. Properly insulating and air sealing openings in your home helps prevent heat loss and any unwanted dust, moisture, pollen, and even pests in your home. If you'd like to learn more and see more energy efficiency tips, check out our energy efficiency FAQ blog in our bio.
Thank you, and I'll do that. And I'll reach out if I have any other questions.
Hey Koswa, you're the expert on these types of things. Is there any help available for electric bills?
Absolutely, Amrit. We've got pricing programs offered through the utility company. And if you live in the Chicagoland area, that will be ComEd. The two pricing programs are time of day pricing and peak time savings rewards program. If you shift the time of day that you use your energy and reduce the amount of energy you use overall, you can see a significant reduction in your utility bill.
How did I never know about these programs? I'm gonna sign up right now. Thank goodness Elevate's community resource team is always there to guide me. Where can I learn more?
You can find out more at elevatemp.org and our FAQ blog.
An FAQ blog? I'm clicking that link right now.
Hey Amrit, I love the look of decorative lights like fairy lights and string lights because they are so cute. But I don't love the increase in my monthly bill. How can I save money on lighting?
Hey Adrian, swapping LED lights for home decor and general lighting is an easy solution to cut back on your electric bill without compromising on your aesthetic lighting preferences. LEDs are 75% more energy efficient and last 25 times longer than their incandescent counterparts. That means you'll spend less time replacing them throughout their usage period.
Wow, I guess I'm switching to decorative LEDs now. How can I learn more?
You're gonna love our Instagram page. Be sure to follow Elevate Community Events for more tips and click the link in the bio for our FAQ blog.
Done and done.
We're back, and special thanks to Sylvia and our friends at GAGDC for joining us in the last segment. It's always great to hear about the other works nonprofits are doing. Now we'll have Dara Reef, Senior Manager of Elevate's nonprofit programs. Dara will share with us what the nonprofit team has been up to in supporting organizations across Chicagoland. Welcome, Dara.
Hi, Yami. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Do you mind telling us a little bit about what it is you do at Elevate?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with a team that actually helps other nonprofit organizations, ones just like GAGDC. And it's really a pleasure to work with leaders like Carlos and Ray. So our goal on our team is to help them reduce their energy costs so that they can put more resources back into delivering on their missions and the programmings like we heard about earlier today.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And if someone works at a nonprofit or perhaps is running a nonprofit, what are the qualifications to get involved at Elevate's nonprofit program?
Oh, sure. So it's really kind of case by case. So we help nonprofits in several different ways. We can provide them with free energy assessments where we can take a look at the building and identify opportunities for improvements. We can also connect them with potential funding sources like grants or utility incentives to help pay for projects. And we work with contractors and provide some technical assistance. So if they're not sure where to start on maybe a more complicated project, then our team can talk them through that. So really, it's about kind of coming to us and talking about what their individual needs are, and then we help figure out what's best for them.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. If there are folks who are watching Can you talk about a little bit about like what the process is, what that looks like for folks who might qualify for the nonprofit program?
Yeah, absolutely. So usually starts with a conversation with someone on our team. Like we like to say that nonprofits come in all shapes and sizes, and their needs really vary quite a bit. So, and like I said, it's pretty case by case. So we have a conversation. We sort of understand what their needs and their goals might be, and then usually the first step after that is an energy assessment. So having an expert come out to the building and take a look around, and again meet people that work for the organization and learn how they're using the space and maybe what their pain points are, if there's space that's too hot, another that's too cold, that type of thing. And then we give them recommendations based on what we found, and then look at those recommendations and really partner with the organization to put together funding sources to figure out how to implement those projects. And from there, we get a contractor involved. So then we'll solicit proposals and help compare different options, and hopefully move forward with the project. And then we'll oversee construction and ensure quality control on the back end, make sure that everything is done as we anticipated.
Very, very cool work that you're doing with us at Elevate. I always love working with the nonprofit team. Can you talk a little bit about the organizations who you've been able to help through this program?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like I mentioned, they come in all shapes and sizes. So we work with a lot of houses of worship, big 100-plus-year-old churches, to maybe a storefront childcare center. We work with homeless shelters and organizations that provide other types of transitional housing, youth and family organizations, social service agencies, food pantries, community-based organizations, schools, et cetera.
That's a wide variety, to say the least. How did COVID affect your work? When the pandemic started, how did things change?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, Carlos and Ray's response to this question was pretty close to what we've seen really for a lot of organizations across the region. So I think that the pandemic really showed the world how crucial social service agencies really are. All of a sudden, more and more people were coming to their local nonprofit looking for support, right? So whether it was they were providing testing sites or vaccines or places where people just were looking for information and resources. So some organizations like food pantries became really inundated with more and more people. And I think I heard Carlos use the word pivot, which we saw so much. Organizations really needed to pivot and get creative in order to be able to figure out how to serve more and more people. Another thing that we've seen that Carlos talked about was that the staff at nonprofits really became the front lines. They didn't close their doors, especially those that serve the most vulnerable population. So PPE was a new expense that organizations had to figure out how to handle, and their staff, like I said, really became the front lines. I'll say for my work, specifically in terms of energy efficiency upgrades, we really didn't see a decline in the interest for the services, which we thought we could. But, even though organizations were shifting their focus, if anything, they were really looking for resources to figure out how to operate as efficiently as possible and keep their doors open. And now that they've reopened a bit and sort of coming back to business as usual-ish, we're getting more and more questions about ventilation and improving indoor air quality, and how that relates to energy efficiency projects at their buildings.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with us today, Dara. Before we wrap up the end of this segment, I'd like to turn it over to Vitia for another question from a consumer. Hi, Vitia.
Hi, Dara.
Hi, Tia.
There's actually a few questions that are coming through, but one of the biggest questions, like the actual incentives or subsidizations that come with the nonprofit program for folks that are interested. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, definitely. And again, it really kind of varies on a case by case. So that's why that initial conversation is the best place to start. But the utilities, ComEd and the gas utilities do offer incentives that a lot of nonprofits qualify for, and they often don't know about it. So there are incentives for commercial customers, which nonprofits are a part of. So a big part of what we do is helping nonprofits navigate those utility incentives, filling out the right paperwork, figuring out what projects qualify, so that they can get incentives, which can be significant to help pay for an energy efficiency project. And then our team is always advocating for grants or financing, other ways to kind of pass through on behalf for those nonprofits. So we're always kind of keeping our finger on the pulse to find funding sources where we can to help nonprofits do projects.
Thank you so much, Dara, and thank you, Vatia, for our question from the community. And now we're going to take a short break, but first, we'd like to show you some of our work out in the community.
The latest technology in energy efficiency and green design can be easily found in high-rises and affluent areas. We believe that an equitable climate future means bringing the benefits of clean energy and energy efficiency to neighborhoods that have been left out of climate investment first. Our partnerships make this possible.
Today in my home with Elevate, they are installing installation in my attic, doing the weather stripping around my 4 outer doors, replacing the vent on the outside of the building for the exhaust extension, and also the exhaust fan in the bathroom. With that type of work being done, I have no more air seepage. It helps the bill go down because I won't be losing air or heat. It makes my home very comfortable. I have no more wind drafts, no more noise through the exhaust. It's a big helping.
On this home today, we are performing energy efficiency work. Most of it is weatherization, insulation in the walls, insulation in the attic, along with some other energy efficiency measures. It's a great opportunity to be able to help our communities, to be able to help everybody because lower energy use means less wear and tear on our grids, on our systems that everybody uses throughout the nation. And I just hope that we can continue to have this opportunity to help everybody around us.
My home means being comfortable, secure, the upkeep and improvements through generational inheritance. I will be able to pass on a blessing and security for the future. Being involved with Elevate was a great blessing. I was recommended through a friend of mine, and it's just really been a blessing. I see the bills going down, the improvement, and I really like to thank Elevate and their partners.
Now we're joined by our community resources team to talk about some weatherization tips and saving options. Welcome, Marissa Joyce and Eric Lightfoot. It's good to have you back on the show, Marissa, and Eric, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Yami.
No problem. Would you all mind getting started a little bit by telling us about your work, Marissa? We can start with you.
Sure, absolutely. I work from Central Illinois. I'm actually located in Springfield. I work in rural communities throughout Central Illinois, helping to connect people with available resources.
Great, thank you so much. And Eric, can you tell us a little bit about your work?
Sure, Yami. I'm a resource coordinator on our community resources team here in Chicago.
Great, thank you so much. This time we'll start with you, Eric. How has the pandemic impacted the work that you do?
Well, it's actually interesting because I started during the pandemic. So COVID dying down is actually what's made me have to adjust. So I've had to get used to being in person and doing one-on-one. I started with virtual. So
Great. And our next question will be for you, Marissa. What are some tips that will get customers through the summer months and hopefully save on their utility bills?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the summer, it's recommended by the Department of Energy that you want to set your thermostat to 78 degrees. Seems a little high maybe, but I would encourage you to use a ceiling fan, and that will make the room seem as if it's 4 degrees cooler than it really is. So I aim for 74 degrees at home in the summer, and then with the ceiling fan, it feels like about 70. Heating and cooling are your biggest energy expenses at home. So that's why it's so important to monitor the temperature of your home. We recommend people get a programmable, or even better, a smart thermostat to help them save about 10% on their heating and cooling costs.
Great, thank you so much, Marissa. Now we are going to go back to Vatia for another question from a consumer.
The question is from some of the consumers is around water bills, water savings, and do we have any tips for them to help with that?
There are lots of ways that residents can save on their water bill. 70% of your water usage occurs inside of your home. One of the biggest water hogs is your toilet. Your toilet uses most of the water in your home. An old toilet uses about 5 to 7 gallons. A newer efficient toilet uses between 1 to 2 gallons. So if you need a toilet upgrade, go for it. If you're not at a place where that's doable, you can buy a special brick they make to put in your toilet tank, and that will help you save per flush. So that is one of my biggest tips. Another tip is water heating. If you can cut down your use of hot water, you're saving not only on your water bill, but also on your energy usage as well.
Great. Thank you, Marissa, Eric, and Tia. It's always good to see you guys. And we will be back right after this.
Elevate's National Strategic Engagement Team works with communities across the country to ensure everyone has access to clean and affordable heat, power, and water in their homes and communities. We engage with our community partners to understand the unique needs of each place we work and partner with them to implement solutions. Our work has grown in many areas like solar, battery storage, energy efficiency, and building electrification. This work helps maintain affordable housing by improving building comfort and lowering utility costs for residents and owners.
Hi, I'm Hank Love, the Director of Midwest Market Development and Strategy for Elevate. The National Strategic Engagement Team focuses on making affordable housing high quality and climate ready through building decarbonization, the process of reducing or removing fossil fuel use at a building. Multiple strategies make this happen, like getting rid of gas appliances, making the building more energy efficient, and installing solar. We use those strategies to upgrade community buildings by developing local resiliency hubs that provide emergency services, including cooling, for our most vulnerable community members.
Hi, I'm Angelina Benson-Glanz, Director of Special Projects at Elevate. Partnerships are essential to make all our work happen. Local government, housing owners, community-based organizations, and Indigenous organizations help us understand the needs of the community. And we work closely with local and diverse technical partners to come up with the best solutions for the climate challenges that we work on.
The National Strategic Engagement Team is expanding the reach and impact of Elevate's great work to make a positive difference where people live, work, and play. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you for joining us for another episode. We're grateful to partner with and acknowledge other nonprofits that are doing great work in our communities, especially those that need it the most. The intention is to continue to have these conversations together to raise awareness and fulfill the commitments we make to all of you. To that end, I want to thank our guests, Ray Thompson, Director of Education and Youth Development, and Carlos Nelson, CEO, both of Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation, Dara Reef, Senior Manager of Nonprofits at Elevate, and thank you again to our Community Resources team. Please continue to be safe. And don't forget, as the weather gets warmer, to check on your neighbors, friends, and family. We will see you next time. Take care.